we can continue where we were leaving off. Some people were asking some good questions in the chat. It seemed like it was a good start, but hopefully it's not cutting out and the lag is gone. So I've just started a new live stream for that. So yeah, this is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we bring you history in a friendly, neighborly manner, 24/7, 365, or 366 days a year. So yeah, if you like or enjoy history and social studies, consider liking and subscribing and all of that good stuff. And we had a good live stream going, but interruptions and all of that kind of stuff is going on because I'm on the road. I am not in the comfort of my own studio. So anyone who is familiar with the channel will know that this is not my usual surroundings. Usually I am in my fluffy dressing gown, my smoking jacket in my studio with my tripod and my lighting set up, but no, I'm on the road today for a graduation, so I'm not in town, so I'll be back to my normal broadcasting in areas tomorrow, hopefully. So yeah. So what do you think about the Labour Party falling behind in the polls for the first time in the Welsh Parliament's history? Probably due to a giant matter of disappointment in the British duopoly between the dominant Labour and Conservative parties. People on the center right have shifted strong to the right, and people in the middle and left are kind of left lagging. And so there's a rise in interest in the Green Party and the Liberal Party. The Reform Party seems to have all the advantages, and even in Wales, they may have a strong advantage. So, yeah. Thank you for your like, Gaiahan. Great to see you, in no way affiliated. And make sure to follow us on those social media handles that my wonderful moderator, Hars, show love to him and Harry, who do such a great job moderating. Hars has put them in the chat for you guys to see. Nah, Demani, I cannot do that. You got to prove to me that you're the GOAT. So, anyways, if you like history and social studies, consider liking and subscribing. And if you have questions related to history and social studies, drop them in the chat and I will answer them as soon as I possibly can. We were going for about 10 minutes or so, so we've got about another 45 minutes on the stream. Again, I'm not in town, I'm out of town, but I still wanted to bring you some quality content and our usual live stream just a little bit earlier because I'm busy in about 45 minutes. So, hey, Asil, I'm glad you won your basketball championship. Nice job. So you're kind of Tyrese Halliburton. I'm surprised the Pacers won game one. I'm still expecting the Thunder to win the series. So we'll see what happens there. I'm paying attention to the NBA Finals, not so much the Stanley Cup playoffs, but Edmonton's probably going to win that. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. I'm from the United States. I don't say exactly where I'm from, but yeah. What are you doing? What am I doing for a living? Hopefully this. Hopefully you join and become a member and donate. It helps the channel grow. Anything helps. So yeah, my job is to get monetized here and build up a following, get ad revenue, and make this my living. So that's what I'm doing, Mr. Monk. Yeah, I might very well be from Chile. People have guessed that I'm Argentinian, South African. I get all sorts of guesses. I like to say that I'm an American because America is big enough where you can't really guess where from the United States. And that could mean Canada. So I'm good, Adrash. I hope you are well, too. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. If you like social studies and everything and the vibes we have here, consider liking and subscribing. If you really would like to support us, consider donating or getting a highlighted chat message. It really helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate that, but you certainly don't have to. And if you have a question or topic related to history that you would like to ask about, drop it in the chat, and I will answer it as soon as I possibly can. Yeah. Hello, Camila. That's very nice of you. I am on the road today. So I am not in my usual surroundings with my usual dressing gown and studio, but I still wanted to bring you guys a Q&A. So let's see here. I actually don't, yeah, I probably do need sleep. I can probably see the bags under my eyes. Or is it just makeup? I don't know. Hi, Andres. Who is your favorite president? Well, favorite and best are often different, but Washington is probably my favorite. Lincoln is probably the best. And if you pick Washington as the best, you can't really go wrong either. I have tried to play Hearts of Iron. I could never get into that, but my favorite RTS historical game is Rise of Nations, which is really old but really enjoyable. Thank you for joining us. We got people from Poland and Canada. I am sorry. I did not mean to make my potato look. We've got people from all over the world who join us. We've got Hearts, and who's an American, and Harry, my wonderful moderator, showed them some love. Harry's a Brit, so we always appreciate that. Who was right, Caesar or Pompey? Caesar. Pompey just threw in with the senators and betrayed Caesar so that he could curb his ambition and basically use the senators for himself. Caesar realized how corrupt the Roman Republic and that Tubman was particularly religious. Nat Turner, who we talked about in the last stream. There's a bunch of different abolitionist leaders who were religious. Charles Finney, the preacher of the Second Great Awakening, was one of the leaders of the abolitionist movement. So there's that as well. So, Right after you do, Asteroid. Hello, welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. Am I Catholic? I don't share my religious orientation or beliefs here. I think the Republic was broken before Caesar and Pompey came about, but they gave it the nail in the coffin. Yeah, Caesar knew that the Republic was out of whack, so. Bomba, there you go. But yeah, if you have a question related to history or social studies, drop it in the chat, and I will be happy to answer it. And if you enjoy social sciences and the like and subscribe. What's the live about? History. Yes. Please ask me anything every Friday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, so you can ask me anything you would like to about those topics. And then on Sundays, I do my live stream lecture, which will be at 4 p.m. Eastern, and that one will be about the decline of the British Empire. Let me see here. Going back to the chat, trying to answer all the questions. Yes, he did, Caesar. He's guilty, and no one should ever like him. Do you think FDR's court packing was justified? No, I don't think any U.S. president's court packing is justified. No, Lost Fruit, I appreciate you asking. People ask about personal stuff all the time, and I like to be as anonymous as I can. People, like my moderators, they don't know my name. A lot of people don't know where I'm from. A lot of people have no idea about my religious orientation. I tell people all that I believe in a higher power, but I don't specify exactly what that looks like, so. Oh, Sonic, interesting. And I think Pompey was sort of walked into the mess by the war hawks in the Senate rather than him walking them into the mess. Yeah, but he saw an opportunity to destroy Caesar, and he certainly took it, and then he realized he was beaten after Pharsalus. Why was Genghis Khan so brutal? The Mongols were an interesting went for polar extremes no matter what they did. On the one end, if they were at war and they offered favorable terms for surrender. If you surrendered, you could pay tribute, but you can continue to exist as your own independent entity. Check out my series on Russian history that I'm doing currently, a short series where I talk about the Mongols and their influence on that. You might learn some more there what they did. The Mongols were very willing to accept local customs, traditions, and religions and even embrace them in places like Persia, India, and China. But if people were not willing to submit to them, they would face horrifying consequences. So on the one end, they were extremely tolerant and cosmopolitan of the areas they were in control of once they got control of them, and if these people surrendered to them and paid their taxes. But if people were resistant to them in any way, shape, or form, they showed utter ruthlessness and brutality. And it's a way to achieve total victory, annihilate your enemy, depopulate them, and destroy their incentive to fight back. Fred, hello. I'll take over easy eggs, but I like scrambled the best. The Great Retreat that occurred on Tuesday, 25th of August to Saturday. Interesting. The Great Retreat, are you referring to part of the Great War? Because the Great War really hadn't started. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Is history actually a science, or is it just based on interpretations? It's both. You study the actual hard facts to come up with conclusions, and those conclusions enter a philosophical branch of history known as historiography, where we form certain opinions and ideas. I have certain opinions that some people consider to be hot takes. I have made a series of hot take videos that you can go check out, and then I am publishing videos where I respond to my hot takes and give further context, like my long-form video that will drop later today. Where does the Jewish Bible reside? I don't know what you mean by that. What's your thoughts on Adolf Hitler? Do you believe he was actually doing good for the Germans? No. I think he wanted to, but it was a zero-sum game for Hitler. It was a zero-sum game for all fascists. If you do good for your people, you have to bring down other people. Are you going to oil... Okay, is it true the Great Wall was not built by China but to defend against China? No, it was built by the Chinese to defend against invaders like the Mongols. Hello, Lisa. Everything can be slowly concluded into a war. If Turkey won the war against Greece, I'd literally just move out and go to Brazil instead. Greetings from Germany, but I don't go into specifics of where I'm lecture, which I do every Sunday, and that's kind of more fit that. So, but obviously Germany goes from being an empire that is on the rise to losing badly during the Great War. The Weimar Republic tries a democratic experiment in Germany, and it goes sideways after the Great Depression. And the Nazis rise to power. They're extremely militant and aggressive, and they're eventually destroyed by the Americans and their allies in what I call World War III, and most people consider World War II. So there's a quick explanation, AR. Who was the most brutal leader that ever lived? My take would be Vlad. Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler is definitely a good catch. We always think of medieval leaders. I would say Stalin and Mao and Hitler, they're all up there. I'm thinking of dictators in the 20th century. The Mongols did try to attack India. They failed, and the eventual Mughal dynasty that took over was descended from the Mongols and Genghis Khan. So Caesar was going down to one province and one legion on the condition that he wasn't persecuted and he could run for consul. Yes, they were tired of Caesar and they wanted him out. Can you name any president who fulfilled the duty of the presidency like Calvin Coolidge, like tax cuts, reducing national debt, and dedication daily to his goals? Coolidge was a good president. There's no doubt about it. He was not the best president ever. And there are presidents who fulfilled their goals, like Lincoln. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Johan, for that. But that was one of the early fights when they actually bogged down into trench warfare, because before then, during the Great War, they thought the war would be over by Christmas. They thought the war was going to be a quick one. Anishka, hello. Let me see here. Thank you, Will, for returning. Good to see you again. I was born on Wednesday on the 19th of the... okay. Thank you, Johan, for trolling. I am from the United States. I don't get into more details about that. Thank you, Superslav, for liking this channel. As a history professor, what's your take about humanity's future? Well, I appreciate that. I'm not technically a professor, not yet. That's one of my aspirations, but I am a history teacher. So, are you pessimistic about it or optimistic? Thanks. I think I'm both. I see things, and I can do this at any point in history, that are optimistic in the future and things that are worrisome. That's just kind of how history works. So, do a video about the formation of the United States from the 1700s onwards. I've done tons of them. Go check out my series on the U.S. presidents. So, let me see. So, yeah. Anyways, if you've enjoyed what I've talked about, consider liking and subscribing if you haven't done so already. And if you have the history or social studies, drop it in the chat and I will answer it as soon as I can. So yeah, we've been doing these live streams for about a year. The channel's been around for about a year and a quarter or something like that. And then we've got 3 different live streams that were set up over time. Because everything is bigger in Texas nuclear war. I am not capital, although that would be a lot of fun. I really wish I could be. I'm not stressed. I'm never stressed when I'm with you guys. Do you have any thoughts on World War III or II? What caused your thoughts? So for me, the cause of the what you call the Second World War, what I call World War III, is German aggression, Japanese aggression, and Italian aggression responded to by counter-eventually into Poland, the Soviet Union being placated with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact between the Nazis and the Soviets scared the British and the French to mobilize their forces as soon as Poland was invaded. I really believe the Third World War starts not in 1939, but in 1937 when the Mutkin Bridge incident happens, or Marco Polo Bridge happens, and China is invaded by Japan for the Second Sino-Japanese War. You could put World War III as starting as early as 1935 when Ethiopia is invaded by the Italians. So. Daniel, don't ask me about that. We get that question all the time. I'm not going to say who's morally right or who's morally wrong. I give you the history about it. You can learn some of the history if you watch any of the live streams here, but yeah. Harry does not ban people for no reason. Harry's doing a good job. I've got good cop, bad cop with Hars and Harry, and they do an excellent job at holding down the chat. So, but yeah, Will, that's the basic underlying reasons and causes and possible dates of the start of what I consider to be World War III. So the next World War would technically be World War IV. And that's one of my hot takes, and I have videos where I react on my hot takes and go in details. One of them will be dropping today at 5 p.m., so please go check that out. And we'll be going for another half hour or so please ask any questions you'd like regarding history or social studies in that time. We started off earlier, then we had some connectivity issues because I'm not in town right now, so yeah, lots going on. But I'm just waiting here, probably graduation in a couple of hours, and then all of that. Then we'll be headed home and we'll be doing my live stream as usual in the usual spot in my studio wearing my dressing gown, smoking jacket, Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then my live stream lecture will be on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So If you have a question or topic related to history or social studies that you find interesting, ask and I will answer. And to spruce things up a bit, because I got kind of a bland background, I'm going to use a nice historical one. We will be joining you from, let's see here. Oh, this one's neat. This is a map of North America. It actually includes South and Central America, but you can't see them too well. And it has, based on the different native tribes and nations that occupied it. So a really cool map that everybody should have and everybody should study. So yeah, this is what it looked like before Columbus showed up. So really cool stuff. I analyze maps, geography, history, social studies, poli-sci, all of that stuff on the channel all the time. So there's stuff for everybody here. So if anyone has a question, topic, or comment they'd like to bring up, please drop in the chat and I will answer it as soon as I can. I fixed my hair a little bit. Don't have my brush with me. So yeah, channel's been going for about a year or so. We just got monetized, so I'm really excited about that. So if you want to help us a little bit more than just by liking and subscribing, which means you become a friendly neighborhood historian, it's easy as that. You can donate, you can join, you can become a member here, you can follow our Patreon, which is pinned in the comments, and you can join us as well there. So that's possible. Or you can do a super comment here that'll be a little bit of a donation. Anything helps the channel grow. So I've got long form video I finally got the chat caught up. I was missing the chat for a second. Okay. Yeah. Let's see, where are we? Okay. My favorite animal would definitely be a lion, even though I'm not a Leo. Where does the sun go at night? To the other side of the world. Krish, if you're interested in that, then you're in the right place. G7 meeting next will be in Canada. That'll be an interesting place for it. Thanks, Running Man. I think either Russia will invade through Alaska in our lifetime, or the U.S. government will turn tyrannical and we would have a second American Revolution. Who knows? We'll see if that happens. I hope not. Why did the Chinese build over bodies in the Great Wall of China? That's probably under the major emperor who undertook. The Great Wall of China has always been part of the Chinese landscape. It's been added to in many different times, and the biggest commission of its addition was under Qin Shi Huang, the first real emperor of China, who established the Qin dynasty in 221 BC until his death in 210 BC, and it was eventually overthrown and taken over by the Han dynasty, which were contemporaries of the Roman Empire. But basically, the Qin emperor did everything he could, even through brutality, to strengthen China's architectural projects. He built the Great Canal, he did a bunch of different things, but the biggest building project was the Great Wall of China, built so that foreign invaders would be kept out. That was the purpose of the Great Wall, and that's why they didn't care how ruthless it was as long as it got built correctly. But yeah, there's your answer. My day's been okay. Why? What did I do wrong? I haven't been laundering money in a long time. Ferdinand was the nephew of Franz Joseph, the Austro-Hungarian emperor, and was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, who was killed by an assassin, Gavrilo Princip, and that's what started the second, or what you guys call the First World War. So yeah, let me see here. My pleasure, Frankie, always a pleasure. Let me see. Louis Vuitton, is that what time it is? Friendly history is 1 second ago. History's, yeah, technically, TI, history is an ongoing thing. It's a tapestry, so there's contemporary history, and history is ongoing. So what's now will be studied as history in 5 or 10 years. Can someone study history without his personal moral items as a lens? Is it possible? No, but it is possible to try to interpret the facts. The best moral lens to interpret history with is with no moral lens, or as little of it as possible. And so that's what we try to do here in a friendly, neighborly manner. It'll be interesting to see him handle the G7. India is one of the rising, shining stars in the world. Its population, and the reason you can tell that it's economically becoming quite prosperous, is that its population growth has actually stalled, even though it's just taken over China as the largest country population-wise in the world. That stalling is the sign of economic fortune, because countries that have reached from developing to developed status tend to see a slowdown in their birth rates is there's greater access to birth control, less need for population, better health care, things like that, that usually lead to a limitation of population. So that's why countries that are fully developed and quite wealthy see a plateauing and then a decline in their birth rates, like Western Europe, North Korea, it's not North Korea, South Korea, Japan, stuff like that. So, stuffing our mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes. How did they cut the granite for the Great Pyramid? Not quite sure. That's what makes it so interesting to people. No, I think Justinian did improve the destroyed Eastern Roman Empire, but I think the greatest Roman, at least the greatest Roman ruler, is Augustus. 45 years in power, consolidated the empire, knew what he didn't know. There would be no Roman Empire, there would be no Pax Romana without Augustus. No, Lee was the better general. Lee won more than Grant did. Grant was just formidable and used all of the North's power to win the war. What's your favorite historical fact? Mine is that the shortest recorded war was 39 seconds. Oh boy, there's so many different historical facts I love. I like Napoleon being the emperor of his own little island before going back to France. Elba. What do you mean what we call the First World War? Are there 3 world wars? Yes, that's a common trope of mine, that there have been 3 different world wars. The 7 Years' War in the 1750s and 60s, which was partly fought on this continent. The Second World War would be the Great War, and the Third World War would be the Nazis in Imperial Japan. I don't know who Graham Hancock is, so 45 years in power, Rome was extremely powerful and stable, and John Sobieski, you must be Polish, one of the greatest kings, most underrated kings in history. Yes, that sounds about right, China being right behind the United States. 41 years in power, but he'd been controlling the Roman Republic for almost a decade by the time he took over. He'd been controlling Rome as the city and the Republic and the Senate for almost a decade by the time he was declared princeps. I'm trying my best. I'm going through the answers as much as I possibly can. Take on India-Pakistan war. I think the West has a knee-jerk reaction to support India because Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan, and Pakistan has had connections to radical Islamic terror, and the fear of radical Islamic terror and Islamic states, obviously the killing of Benazir Bhutto and some of their policies, the radical wing in Pakistan hasn't helped their lot with the West. So, no, Louis Vuitton. The Soviet Union was actually more of a paper tiger than we actually think, and that information is coming out. I mean, look at the airstrikes, the Russian Pearl Harbor that happened. Some of those planes were being used for nuclear purposes for the Soviets, and they were backwards even by American standards in the 1960s. They were comparable to the B-52s that the U.S. built in the 1950s and 40s, so they were behind. So, I don't know who Jan Žižka is, so I'm not going to be able to share my perspective on what I don't know. Winfield Scott was the head commander, and he was so inept that they got rid of him quickly. Lincoln went through so many generals in the Army of Potomac, it's not even funny. No, Hitler did not go to Argentina, but Mengele sure did, and so did Eichmann until the Jews hunted him down and killed him. What are some of the most interesting engineering feats in ancient history? The pyramids. There's megaliths all over the world. There's pyramids all over the world. The pyramids would be one of them. The Colossus of Rhodes is obviously huge, and the Colosseum still to this day is quite incredible. Why did the Roman Empire fall? Corruption, greed, inflated inferior and weakening was probably not a good idea at the end of the 300s. I've got videos, both long form and short, about the Roman Empire that you can check out and learn its imperial history. I even got a playlist of Roman emperors that you can check out. Yeah, a lot of people consider Pakistan to be one of the centers of terrorism because many people thought that Osama was in Afghanistan, and it turned out he wasn't. Well, Caesar was granted titles and powers and money. It was all given to him by the Senate and people of Rome. Yes, as was Augustus. Augustus governed for himself, but look at how successful the Roman people were under Augustus. It's one thing to say, so just because and Julius Caesar certainly governed for himself by the standard of arrogance. I don't know the Anaconda Plan. You're going to have to remind me what that was. Actually, he cared about a lot of it. He cared about seizing power from it, and he did a good job of doing that. You're being an idealist for the Republic. The Republic was in steep decline. I can understand why Augustus had no affinity for the Republic whatsoever, Harry. Did Caesar? No, he did not. Is China actually overcounting their population by hundreds of millions? Probably not, but there is a population crisis in China. There's a disproportionate amount of men to women now in their younger generations, and their population growth has plateaued and looks like it will start to decline. So as countries that are poor have low access to healthcare, they have low standards of living, they do not have access to birth control, and because of that, they tend to have extremely large populations and grow at massive rates. This happened in India and China in the last century, and Nigeria right now is experiencing it this century. Once a country becomes actually affluent, or at least developed to the sense where a lot of their people are actually able to afford healthcare and birth control, their population dips quickly. So, salam to you as well. Who was the worst Roman emperor? Elagabalus is definitely one of them. Geta, I would say Commodus, just because he gave us the inspiration for the name of a toilet. He was so bad. Trojan War really happened, highly exaggerated by Homer. No, the Jews did not kill Hitler. They killed Adolf Eichmann was his name. Whereas I think Caesar at least publicly did care about the Republic and fellow senators and magistrate. He did, and then they killed him. There you go. Did ancient Greek philosophers get a lot of? They probably did. I don't know. There was one Greek philosopher who did everything he could to stay away from his wife and supposedly died laughing. So there's that. Was that Diogenes? Some people say he didn't even exist. Italy, USA, and England, and taught different perspectives. Do you think countries are taught their strengths rather than weaknesses? It's a knee-jerk reaction because we want our decisions and our backgrounds to be good. So because of that, we're going to lionize certain aspects of our history and our culture. So of course, a history of Italy by Italians is going to make Italy look good. You don't want to make it look bad that you're living in Italy or feel bad about living in Italy. It's a Western development only in the last 2 centuries, really, to be able to criticize your current society and its history. That didn't exist very much so in human history. It's only the last few centuries, and it's something that really doesn't exist to a large extent in the Eastern world, except by dissidents and defectors. It didn't exist in the Soviet world. That's why you had Shakharov and Solzhenitsyn fleeing to the West to make their points. But it does exist in the Western world today, where we are very good at criticizing ourselves, perhaps too good. So yeah. Let me see here. The Anaconda Plan was the plan developed by Winfield Scott to cut the South in two via Mississippi River and then push them slowly. Well, that's actually kind of what happened, and that's what Ulysses S. Grant was so good at doing, thanks to his victories at Chattanooga and Vicksburg. So yeah. Anyways, I know I'm a little bit behind on the chat. I'm trying to answer all of your questions as soon as I can. Yes, Harry, and who lived longer and who was more successful and who was Rome more prosperous under? Augustus was the ruler for 45 years. Julius Caesar was the ruler for a year, 2 years. And marrying Cleopatra and having Caesarion and demanding that Caesarion be treated as a Roman obviously showed that he didn't care too much about those traditions. I don't know who exactly made the map, but this is something I found recently, and it shows all the different areas of the United States by color code and the different Native American tribes and groups that occupy those areas. It's really... I've heard a little bit about Burkina Faso and their rise. I don't know what's the reason for it, so I'd have to study it more. Biscuits. My take on Trump versus Elon. I've done this on a couple of videos. I knew people were going to ask me about it. I'm surprised it's not more people. I talk about geopolitics here because I think it's relevant to the historical point. And there is nothing historically orthodox about any of this, but it's not really historically unique the way we think it is. I mean, yes, is it true that Trump and Elon fighting is kind of contentious and crazy and dramatic, and it doesn't usually happen with presidents and their biggest supporters? Yes, absolutely. I think it's overblown because presidents have relied on the 1% and on billionaires for a long time to help them run the country, give them advice and direction. Usually it's behind closed doors. The only thing that's unique about the Elon-Trump situation with both of them is how brazen they are both about it. And so that's really my perspective on the Trump-Elon thing. I really don't think it's as big of an issue. It's just unique because it's so loud. It's the squeakiest wheel in the grease. And I think the media loves it because they love to watch. It gives them fodder, and it's a way to criticize Trump and talk about division and all of that stuff. And I think both sides have been acting pretty petty and childish. So that's my take on it. And glory to Henry Clay. Talk about how great he is a lot. And no, not Homer Simpson. Homer the blind poet who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey is who I was referring to. No, that's not true, Harry. Augustus reformed the family structure. He built new Roman projects. He completed the road system. He conquered new areas. You have a bias against Augustus. You should watch my video on Augustus. He was actually a pretty brilliant and effective ruler. Cruel, yes. Cunning and dark, yes. But effective. Let me see here. So, anyways, hopefully you are enjoying what we are talking about, so consider liking and subscribing if you are. What's the most sketchy plot hole in our prehistory? I don't know about plot holes in prehistory. There definitely seems to be talk of civilizations that existed that have kind of been lost. I don't know if that's really true or not. Atlantis was obviously the main one that Plato refers to. So, anyways, we've got about another 10 minutes or so, so please, if you're enjoying this, like and subscribe and ask a question if you want to, or drop a topic that you'd like to discuss regarding history and social studies. Well, I'm hoping that my chat catches up so I can answer all of your great questions. Thank you for spending your early evening, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are with us here at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we bring you history in a friendly, neighborly manner. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or give me a follow on Patreon as well if you would like. So, yeah. So. Hopefully the chat catches up soon. But yeah, everything is pinned there by hearts. And so if you want to give us even more support, there's Patreon where you get early releases, and there's also my series on the First Ladies if you subscribe there and for a small fee. So let me see. I'm not seeing the chat. Let me see.